Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to East West Reviews. Thank you so much for joining me today, and a special thank you to everyone who is returning. Of course, if you're new here, welcome. I can't thank you enough either for coming to click on my videos and checking out my channel. Hopefully you like what you see and you also feel like commenting and subscribing. So we have a great episode to talk about today because this week's episode was phenomenal. So much to get into, so action-packed. Definitely one of my favorites to come out so far. And the episode's name, Reunion, it really spoke for itself when I saw that. So I knew right away what we were kind of going to be getting. But I didn't know that it was also going to be a bigger reunion, not just for the Bad Batch, but also a reunion for me. So this one starts off with some faces we haven't seen in a bit, and it's great to finally have them back in the story. Of course, we have Crosshair, the Imperial Commander on Kamino, and the Kaminoan Prime Minister himself. So we kind of got to see what they've been doing a little bit, which is kind of a nice break from catching the Bad Batch, just doing whatever in the beginning. But we also see that Crosshair comes in and brings the news to the Prime Minister and the Imperial Commander that Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, has been seen on Bracca messing around in a Jedi cruiser. So that sparks some concern, sparks some reasons for the Commander to want to send Crosshair. Crosshair himself says he needs more than just a squad. So he goes right away to go and meet his old friends. Honestly, what turned out to be a pretty nice sized crew for what he thought he needed for them. So I also noticed that in the Commander and the Prime Minister, when Crosshair came to them, they were talking, and it sounded like the Prime Minister was kind of being told off by the Commander. It's heard some words that sort of sounded like, you know, tell me about all the affairs you have going on. Make sure that they get reported to me. Basically, he wants to know what he's doing at all times. So I'm wondering, is the Empire kind of becoming wary of Kamino? Are they worried about what they may do? Are they worried about these clones that they're trying to make? So I wonder if there's more going on internally there. So hopefully we get a little more of that in the future. Because as we know, we didn't get a whole bunch of it in this. But definitely something to keep an eye out for going forward. But without further ado, let's get into it. The biggest thing about this episode to me was, of course, Crosshair coming after the crew. And this was really a treat because it was such a great cat and mouse game that we got to watch. And we really got to see the Bad Batch struggle against someone who knows them so well and against a larger force that outnumbered them. Crosshair was able to display a superior knowledge of his old crew and was able to corner them twice. And the Bad Batch was only able to escape for crazier reasons, of course. You know, they come up with plans that nobody can ever perceive. They improvise a lot, and they run off sheer luck. Whether it was collapsing the roof to escape from the squads in the artillery room, or cutting off the ring that connected to the engine, so that the burners just shot straight out towards the clone troopers that had them pinned down. So to me, it showed that Crosshair is such a vital member of this team. Knowing their plans, their tactics, he's a capable long-range shooter, and we know that the Bad Batch, and he knows this as well, that they don't have anyone like that who can counter him in a fight. So he was really able to take advantage there in terms of that. And it really showed that they were hurting without him in terms of, countering him and his long-range ability, but also being able to take on a force that was a lot larger than them. We know they're able to do this. It's what they're notorious for. They're known as the small squad who's able to take down an entire battalion by themselves. It doesn't look like the crew has given up on Crosshair. It kind of seems like they still have plans to try to bring him back and take out his inhibitor chip. We saw them trying to reach out to him, trying to see if there's any parts of him left. Maybe part of it broke through, but ultimately, on the other side, it seems like Crosshair has only become more determined to take them out himself. So I really wonder if he'll be able to come back on his own, or if they're going to have to go ahead and force him, maybe capture him and force him to take out the inhibitor chip some way. Another thing that became really clear to me in this episode is that Crosshair may not be the only internal issue that the Bad Batch has. So the other internal conflict, I think, comes from the conversation we see between Hunter and Echo in this episode, where there's some of their ideas kind of don't exactly align with each other. So we know in the last episode at the end, before he leaves, Rex extends an offer to Hunter as he is the leader of the Bad Batch, trying to see if he can get him to join his efforts possibly against the Empire, but we know that Hunter ends up turning him down, telling him that he wants to try and see if he can find a new life for his crew, possibly one away from war and entirely out of conflict. But I don't think that's in the nature of Hunter, and he seems to be really conflicted of this. I also think that Hunter turned him down due to his own personal feelings, mainly his need to want to look after Omega ever since he found her. He has a strong need to protect her at all costs, and it sort of seems to sway his ideas and opinions on how the crew should really move going forward. So in their conversation, Hunter tells Echo that the missions that Sid provides for them can also provide them a life that they can live off of. Of course, they get housing, they get money, they get food. So it's not an entirely bad idea, and it is somewhere in the wheelhouse of things that they can do. They are very capable after all. But Tech brings up a supporting idea that also goes along with Hunter's idea. He mentions that the intelligence that they gain from working with Sid is worth a lot, and it's really helped them going forward, and for the time being it might not be a bad idea to go off of that for the time being until they can get their bearings for real. But we all know that Sid's extorting them, and the crew knows it as well, and Echo is honestly just not here for it. So I really think that there may be something more to come from this, but we'll see. It didn't occur to me until now, honestly, that the other three may not want the same life that Hunter wants, but they continue to go along because they know he's the leader. But they themselves know that they're also soldiers, as Echo points out, and that's probably the life they should leave and live. Is it possible that Echo, like Rex, wants to go and fight against the Empire? I wouldn't be surprised. They fought together for a long time, so I could see Echo wanting to go over to Rex. But I also think that this is going to continue the internal struggle that Hunter has with himself, where in the last couple episodes, there's always been someone telling him, you're going to have to choose a side eventually in all of this. So I think that's going to really come boiling down soon, especially now that the idea is out there in the crew, and they're starting to think for themselves and what they might want to do and what's best for them. So we know that things were already going bad for the crew, but honestly it only got worse at the end. Just when Hunter and Omega try to get to the ship, they're shocked to find every clone trooper is taken out and a lone assailant is on their ship. And the attacker's identity is revealed to be Cad Bane. He is back, he is alive, the GOAT bounty hunter has finally returned to Star Wars, and he's facing off with Hunter. On a quick tangent, I personally love Cad Bane. He was one of my favorite characters to watch in Clone Wars. Every time he was on the screen, he had sort of a Thanos effect, if you know what I mean. He always captured the show. Every time he was on screen, he always had a great moment, a great dialogue. And he really just captured the whole scene and show whenever he was on. So I'm really happy to see that he came back. So shout out to Dave Filoni. Thank you for bringing my boy back. I can't wait to see him throughout the rest of the series. But back to the topic at hand. For those who aren't aware, like I said, Cad Bane is a very deadly bounty hunter, and apparently he's coming after Omega. And Omega herself recognized that he's a bounty hunter right away. So honestly, I was afraid for Hunter, and rightfully so, because the two face off in a duel, and as soon as that begins, I'm like, oh, he's done. He's done. There's no way you can face off against Cad Bane in a duel like that. I don't know of many people who could be capable in that. Honestly, I wonder if Han Solo himself is fast enough to shoot against Cad Bane. But we know that Hunter himself wasn't. He takes a shot to the chest, he goes down, and Cad Bane swoops in and takes Omega away. But man, that was an awesome scene. He came in, said he killed some clones before, he'll do it again, and he handled business. That's what he does. So to speak a little more on Cad Bane, why he came after Omega, I think it's because, again, like I've been saying, the Kaminoans have been hiring bounty hunters to come and take her back because she is the clone sample that they need to move forward and still try to have a hope of finding a place among the Empire. And we see in this episode, what have the Kaminoans been doing? They've been hiring bounty hunters. Now, I don't want to say I've been right about the whole Fennec Shand thing, because they didn't exactly say that they hired her, but they alluded that they have been hiring more than one bounty hunter. So of course we see Cad Bane come at the end of this episode after they said all that. So I think it's safe to assume that he's been hired by them. But also, I think it'd be safe to assume that the only other bounty hunter we've seen, Fennec Shand, has also been hired by them. Both these two are very capable members of the underworld. We know Cad Bane himself is a very expensive bounty hunter, and he doesn't work for anything cheap. So the Kaminoans, they're very wealthy. They have a lot of supplies and a lot of wealth and information. So they are definitely a group of people that can easily hire someone like Cad Bane and Fennec Shand at the same time to try and track down a prized possession like Omega. So with that, I'm going to stick with that theory. I'm sure we'll find out soon. Honestly, I'm just happy to see Cad Bane back again. So let's move on into predictions. And we're going to start with predictions that are going to be going forward with the rest of the show. And then the last two are going to be what I think are going to be for next week's episode. So, of course, Crosshair was in this episode. When we left him at the end of the episode, he was badly beat up and injured. So he's going to be taken back to, I think, Kamino and possibly to Tarkin. Now, I don't think he's going to come out unscathed. I think he's going to be punished, of course. We know how Tarkin feels about failure. So I think he's definitely going to be punished. In what way, I don't know how. But at the end result of this, I think Crosshair is only going to come back stronger and deadlier, and with a stronger resolve to want to take out his former crew. And of course, the Empire has an endless supply of weaponry and people to fight alongside him. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next time we see a Crosshair, he comes back with a few upgrades, or maybe just a crazy crew himself that can take on the Bad Batch. Next prediction I see coming is the issue of the Bad Batch trying to choose sides. That's really going to start to boil over, especially with Echo now being vocally against wanting to, I guess, become a bounty hunter or live off the grid as Hunter wants to do, because Echo knows he's a soldier and that's all he wants to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts becoming a lot more vocal and starts to talk about leaving them and joining Rex. So I'm really curious to see where this plot point goes forward, but I'm sure Hunter is definitely going to have to choose very soon in all of this. So for next week's episode, I think we're going to start to see more of the Kaminoans' plans, maybe confirming who they hired. Was it Fennec Shand and Cad Bane that they did hire to go after Omega? Like I said, they're both expensive bounty hunters, they're capable, and they provide results. So the Kaminoans are definitely someone who are able to hire these two people. So I hope we get to see more of it. I hope we get to see more of Cad Bane, honestly. And I think that's another thing we're going to be seeing next week, because we know at the end of this episode, Hunter wakes up and he immediately tells them, we have to go after Omega. How are they going to go after Omega and Cad Bane? I don't know, because I'm sure knowing Cad Bane, he was definitely able to erase his steps, try to hide himself out, but I'm sure they'll find a way. Possibly Sid. Sid might know how to find Cad. She seems very capable and knowledgeable herself, but I'm curious to see what she would say if she found out who they were dealing with. So we'll see how that part goes, but I definitely see them trying to go after Cad Bane. And I think we'll see more of himself in the next episode and where he's going. So that's going to be all for me today, everybody. What a crazy episode. So much happened. Action-packed. We had Empire and Crosshair versus the Bad Batch finally facing off. And the return of fan favorite, a reunion for me, Cad Bane. And honestly, I really want to know where he's been all this time. We know it's kind of been a mystery what happened to him. A lot of people speculated he just died. I kind of thought he was just maybe out there in the ether, but I hope we get a little bit on that in the future as well. But with that being said, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, or dislike if you really feel like it. But definitely let me know what you think down in the comments below, what you thought about this episode and all the predictions going forward. And I'll see you next week for episode 9. Bye, everybody.